Ti ricordi quella sera che per gioco tu baciai?
All right, we are here for another session. We're at Stablecoin Conference here in Mexico City. We're here with Mr. Caio from Lumx for an exclusive conversation. Really excited about this. We've known you for quite some time, and I'm a huge fan of Lumx. And some of these conversations, I'm meeting folks for the first time and getting to know them for the first time. This is not the case for this. But for those who are meeting you for the first time, what's your name? What is Lumx? High level. How do you explain it to maybe, you're walking around the conference hall and someone's like, oh, what is Lumx? How do you give that? What's the elevator pitch here?
Yeah, sounds good. First of all, very happy to be here. As you mentioned, we have been, talking for a while already. It's very good to be here in the conference. Very good friends in the industry already. It's very good to be part of the ecosystem, actually to feel part of the of an ecosystem. So it's very exciting to be here. And I'm Caio, founder and CEO here at Lumx. We are based in Brazil. So essentially what we do is that we offer APIs and a whole infrastructure for money movement worldwide on top of stablecoins. So we, position ourselves as like a stablecoin native platform for money movement. In our case, with a strong focus on the LATAM region. So of course, not only enabling businesses in LATAM to trade with the other LATAM businesses and streamline these payments into the region itself, but mainly to give them better payment rails to LATAM-focused corridors. And in a nutshell, it means basically like US, Europe, and Asia.
Awesome. Give us, when you think about some of the core use cases, or what I always like to start with is like maybe a recent customer win or a client that you guys are like, oh, wow, we're really excited about that. Even lately, especially, it's been a few months since we've caught up, that in your mind really encapsulates, hey, this is the type of client we want to work more of with, because these are the things that they're doing with us. Any clients or customers come to mind for you there that are kind of like hero clients right now?
I have one specific in mind that I unfortunately can't open the name yet because it's very recent. We most likely have a public.
Is it signed?
Yeah,
it's a signed client, but it's not launched yet.
It's not live yet.
How exciting! Okay. When will this be live, do you think?
Mid to end of September. So it's very close already.
Okay. Well, without naming names, tell us about this business and what makes you excited about them.
Yeah. So basically, because of course, for a while already, the majority of the volume of the use cases that we always talk about crypto is stablecoins specifically is, people protecting themselves from inflation. People have access to global dollar accounts. People sending money to their families. And most recently, we have been seeing this surge in the B2B part of the industry. So businesses doing payments with stables or using stables as a better rail for an end-to-end to do the stablecoin sandwich as we speak, or also to streamline the treasury by using stables to hold the balances, right? So in our case, of course, in the B2B space by itself, we also have a lot of variety because there's tons of use cases in this place. But by far, where we have the most volume to be made, specifically from a commercial perspective, but also where is the most value to be unlocked is the flow of imports and exports.
Okay.
So Brazil specifically is a huge exporter, but also a huge importer. But majority of what Brazil do is to import from China, for example, or to export to the US, for example, like commodities and all electronics and other type of products.
Yeah.
And
these are businesses who are headquartered typically in Brazil, or maybe these are like parts of like multinational companies that have their, Brazilian branch. Are you seeing both or
yeah, we're seeing both, but actually we have some exceptions of this, but majority of the customers that we work with are some kind of FX broker that do business with this end beneficiary, with this multinational, but we usually don't work directly with the multinational, at least up to this point. Because since our business is mostly API driven, like this guy usually don't have the technical capabilities in-house to integrate their whole stablecoin product. But we are now with a dashboard where the operation team can do transactions. So we are starting to get this demand, but up to this point was not our main focus.
Okay.
So the customer that I'm very excited about in this one that I can unfortunately share the name yet, they are like a SaaS for imports and exports management. So they are
they're bringing you into, it's almost like win this customer, you get all these customers.
Yeah, basically 25% of the Brazil trading volume passed through them.
Wow.
So it's like 1 trillion reais.
So this software is something that these importer exporters use for payments anyway.
Actually not. This is the best part. They don't have any payments
Really
yet.
What do they use for it? Like fulfillment, inventory stuff? Or
Yeah,
what?
supply chain management. Like they have a lot of AI features there too for market data.
I have chills. This is so exciting.
Yeah, man.
It's so much. It's so much better to, in my opinion, it's so much better to embed financial tools that are stablecoin native within tools that already exist.
Exactly.
Like all these importers and exporters, like they're not gonna. It would be way harder to go to them and say, "Hey, like use this new thing that's new and foreign and stablecoin powered." But what this is like, "Hey, you already use this platform. You log in next week on Monday, and oh, what is this financial account now that I can use?" Tell us about what is actually now possible for this Brazilian importer and exporter with this account. Like what is Lumx under the hood power here?
Yeah. So the use case is in a nutshell embedded finance at its finest. So you are importing and exporting, you have access to the platform where you manage your whole operation. Also, they also have like financial, institutions that use the platform for market data to offer credit, for example, for these importers and exporters. So a lot of banks use their platform as like a data platform, to understand the market data share and all those things. So in a nutshell, basically
to extend credit to those companies, almost like we'll expose this data because we would then almost like if I'm using Square or Stripe or something, I'm a small business. They can get to know my business and maybe they'll offer me like a capital loan or something to go help me expand, something like that.
Exactly.
Like probably like 100 times bigger.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So with our infrastructure, what they are doing that now these guys will have access to both a stablecoin wallet embedded into their existing account. So they are able to send, hold, and receive stables, the FX. So move between stables to fiat, but also have virtual accounts in USD euros. They can receive payments locally, like they had a local bank account in the US or in Europe. So like a Brazilian exporter can receive USD local payments without needing to have like a USD bank account. Yeah.
So cool. So, it sounds like this partner that you won is, I know we're diving really deep here. It's just really interesting. Like the partner that you won has a network of other similar businesses. Imagining, would there be now a reality where like maybe these importers and exporters within this shared system actually maybe do business with each other? And is that going to be, do you imagine like, now I have this really easy, instant stablecoin native way to send and receive funds to other clients that are doing this as well, like almost like a Venmo for importer and export? Is that kind of what's going to be possible here?
Yeah, this would be very possible, not only between businesses that use the same platform, but also with businesses that don't use that platform.
Sure.
So if you use the platform, you now have this thing, but you'll be able to pay or get paid from a customer or a business that don't even know that this company exists.
Okay.
Because the way that they do it now is that if they want to do a FX to pay for a commodity or to pay for a container, they need to go direct to the bank, do a traditional FX and blah, blah, blah. Be able to do this embedded onto the existing flow that they have in the platform. This is why this is so powerful.
So much easier. So with Lumx right now, tell us, there are multiple things here that are being utilized by you guys. I'm imagining under the hood. It's not just like, are there different APIs doing different things? Like you have like a wallet accounts API. Break down specifically what is being used, because I want to make sure that people understand how much you guys do across the stack.
So briefly, a brief context. So we actually started out years ago as like a tokenization platform / a wallet infrastructure provider. So a lot of the things that we offer as a product now with a different brands.
What were you tokenizing in the beginning? When was this?
2022.
So 2022, what were you trying to tokenize at that time?
Back then it was like literally no joke, anything.
Okay.
We tokenized from carbon credit to real estate to receivables, fan tokens, a lot of things.
Okay.
Of course,
pictures of your mom, things like, really
everything.
special. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. NFTs,
podcast episodes. Okay.
That's it.
So you realize like, you sort of pivoted away from that, it sounds like. But That sounds like maybe it's coming back a little bit because tokenized money, you could say, is stablecoins.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of. Because why I'm telling you this, because the whole infrastructure that we built back then, the whole transaction engine, the blockchain, the wallet infrastructure that we needed to offer, because we worked with non-tech savvy companies at all. So everything that we built back then was already planned to make interacting with the blockchain easy as interacting with the traditional financial industry or any app that my mom can use. And we use the same structure to the stablecoin product that we have now. So a company that now comes to Lumx and wants to use our API, where, I don't know, 3 API calls, they can already have like a customer created with a QAC, QAB already built in. So the whole compliance engine is already there with a wallet already embedded into the customer. So like in 5 minutes, you can receive stables or do any type of transaction. And also connected to the whole process of the FX liquidity and also payment local rails. So the same mindset that we had back then when we were tokenizing, I don't know, carbon credits or, fan tokens or pictures of my mom. We use the same philosophy now. Like, how can we make moving money as easy as, I don't know, sending a picture on WhatsApp?
Yeah, moving value, moving data.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we were, before this, actually, the last conversation we were having was with Tomas from BRL1, talking about like tokenizing Brazilian real and how their business is going about that. Like, how do you guys think about working with, you guys have this infrastructure, issuance is really interesting within this mix, or like what financial data or financial assets are living in these wallets or in this infrastructure. How are you guys thinking about like localized fiat currency stablecoins, like non-USD stablecoins right now? What is that like?
This is a topic that always comes to some round of discussions. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, at least now, talking about Brazil specifically, okay? So in Brazil, we don't need a local BRL stablecoin to do payments.
Okay.
Because we have Pix. It's instant 24/7. It's almost free. So in order for me to do like an on and off ramp from BRL to another stablecoin, for example, USDC or USDT, there's a lot of tons of liquidity. We have a bank in a cap table, so we can work with, we actually have bank with liquidity for BRL from and to stables. So in our case, doesn't make sense at all to use a BRL stablecoins for payments specifically. Okay. But for other use cases, I think depending on how you see it, it makes a lot of sense. For example, in Brazil, there's one thing that's called NRA, non-resident accounts. So if you are a non-Brazilian entity or individual, by some any reason you want or need to hold balances in BRL, because either you do any type of business in Brazil, or somehow you need to have access to BRL for something.
Do you have to be like you're in Brazil to get NRA account, or is this anyone can get?
Yeah, anyone, but it's not that easy.
Okay.
This is the thing. I have, for example, some friends that were trying to get the non-resident account for individuals, and it took like 3 months, 4 months.
Okay.
For businesses, depending on how you see it, it's faster, but it requires you to have like a regulated entity in a specific jurisdiction. For example, in our case, if we have an MSB in the US, you then can open up a non-resident account in Brazil, because they see that you are a business that have like a regulator looking at you.
Yeah.
Basically.
And you see this maybe as a one of a few examples of where an issuance.
Yeah, makes sense, because like instead of doing this whole process to have access to the BRL with a Brazilian stablecoin and a wallet, you already have access to BRL.
Yeah, it's like this NRA account is sort of
exactly. It's kind of like a new phase of this non-resident account. So for this use case,
I hear NRA and I'm like, our American mind is like National Rifle Association. Like, it's not. It's like it's funny, these terms.
So for this use case, I think like makes a lot of sense actually. And I think we might see a lot of volumes coming through this specific flow, but for specific use cases, like for investors that want to invest in Brazil, so they can just, funds a wallet in stables, and then the stablecoin partner handles this whole process of converting to their own BRL stablecoin and applying to the specific assets. So I think their capital markets will be very, very transformed based on this new structure of BRL stablecoins.
Awesome. Tell me, I think a lot of I'm American. I see things through that lens. A lot of Americans, especially, are just not very educated yet on all of the nuances globally of like the local banking systems, like PIX, for example. Help those who may not be as familiar with PIX and like why it's so effective and how it works. Like, just give like a couple minutes on like why, what is PIX? How does it work, high level, and why actually is it so effective to a point where you, in your belief, you actually may not even need a payment focused stablecoin in that sense.
Yeah, so Pix is the instant payment system in Brazil. Actually, Pix is kind of the mainstream name, but behind the scenes, the name is SPI, Sistema de Pagamento Instantâneo, like instant payment system. So Pix is the way we as people in the industry calls it, but behind the scenes, not exactly the name, the term. But Pix basically is like an instant payment system where both businesses and individuals can transfer money 24/7, all days in the all days in the week, in the year, for free,
instantly.
Yeah. So
a lot of the benefits that stablecoins bring are already, and this has been around for a long time, right?
Yeah, since 2018, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it has been growing like crazy. It already is the largest instant payment system in the world. Already surpassed UPI in India.
And this is like a consortium of banks.
Actually,
is it government backed system?
Yeah, so this is one thing that's very specific about Pix too. It is like a project and infrastructure built by the central bank, and they have like a open source code of the Pix. But of course, not everyone can have access to it, like in the production environment. In order for you to get access to Pix, you need to be a regulated entity, either like a bank or what we call PI, payment institution, need to have a specific license. Or you can just like use a bank as a service. If you don't want to have a regulatory body, you can plug into a bank as a service provider that can give you access to Pix. Basically, like this is Pix. So it's amazing, has been growing like crazy. Literally everyone in Brazil uses Pix now. If I'm not wrong, I don't know like the most recent numbers, but based on this last time that I saw this, if I'm not wrong, already 60 or 70% of the transactions in Brazil already go through Pix. So for example, credit cards, people are, using more Pix than that. And the best part of Pix is not, you can just send and receive money. Pix is actually like a programmable money infrastructure. So now we have a new feature from Pix, for example, that came out, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, which is called Pix Automático, Pix Automatic Pix, which basically you can schedule payments with Pix. And why is this so important? Because in Brazil specifically, people have the culture of paying for the, electronics and whatever installments with the credit cards. But most of people only do this because they don't want to do the one-time payments. They want to split the payments in, installments.
Yeah, buy now, pay later. Sort of enables like, the central bank is sort of operating like a modern fintech organization.
Yeah, exactly.
Do they have like a team at the government who's like, or the central bank who's, I'm imagining a lot of people very smart are building this financial product, and is the, this is unique to Brazil. Are there any other modern global central banks that are doing similar things? I know there are a couple other like similarly flavored approaches to Pix. Are there other countries that come to mind there that kind of have their own similar type of setup?
So
I know I'm like quizzing you right now. I'm curious.
No, yeah. If I'm not wrong, like the architecture of how Pix was built and how it works is very unique to Brazil.
Yeah.
And how the whole situation, the relationship between the central bank and the players of the ecosystem is done is very specific.
Yeah.
If I'm not wrong, Colombia is very close to launching their own instant payment system and is heavily inspired by Pix.
Okay.
To not say a copy of Pix.
Inspired by, of course.
Yeah, because this is something that was literally like an inspiration for them. I had an amazing conversation with a guy called Bruno Batavia. He's now one of the partners at Valor Capital, which is one of the main VCs in LATAM that invest in fintechs. And also he was a former central bank employee for a very long time. So he was actually the part of the Pix development and also the CBDC pilot too. And he was telling me that. He was telling me that the Colombian government was like, hey, let's have a conversation with the Brazilian central bank, like talk to these guys. let's find out how they build this.
Yeah, it's really
so it's
interesting.
it's very specific.
I met with Leandro Noel from BRLA, now Avenia. I think they rebranded, but when we first had that conversation, like about 6 months ago, they're obviously very focused on Brazil, and the term like CBDC to an American is like a bad word. Like central bank digital currency is like, oh, like that's bad.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of Americans who have been following the space have heard that word, and they kind of gut reaction that it's like a bad thing. And there are arguments to be made for how it could be bad or how it could not be bad. But from the conversation I had with Leandro, your perspective here, and just like how it's inspiring other, I love your perspective just on this. Like there's a spectrum here of like innovation. And if the government or the central bank in Brazil, for example, is going to be very, very far on the spectrum of like, we're going to be very innovative here. We're going to own a lot of the rails and make that super easy and like hopefully do it really well to make payments work, versus other countries that are very far on the other side of the spectrum where you actually have to bring a lot of the layer one infrastructure in and the issuance infrastructure in. Like from your perspective, focusing in Brazil as an entrepreneur, as a business owner who is building stablecoin native company using this infrastructure, what would you say are the key benefits to having a PIX like system? I'm going to guess a lot of countries are going to continue to be inspired by that system. And what are maybe the downsides? Like if you were to kind of, what are the biggest pros and cons that you see? Because PIX, from what it sounds like, is going to be a kind of a forefront example here.
Yeah, I think PIX, from my perspective, be honest, I don't see any.
You seem really favorable to it.
Yeah, I don't see any negative points on PIX.
Okay.
Because it just works like for everything, and specifically for us, right? We are building a global company that wants to serve global businesses to help either local businesses or global businesses to send and receive money worldwide. So if we can receive our pay in Brazil instantly, like it's everything that we want.
Yeah.
It's everything that we need.
What would you say to the critic on this side of the spectrum who might be like, that's too much control, that's too much power, we're giving the central bank too much, they're too involved here, like let's bring more innovation, private companies, like what would you say to that person?
Yeah, I think in Brazil specifically, like for the PIX situation, I don't think, and of course I'm biased, right? Because I was born and raised there. I have my own, opinions there, but I don't see any drawbacks for PIX specifically. For the CBDC is another discussion.
Yeah.
But for the CBDC, I think it is a problem.
For those who don't know the difference, how would you compare PIX to a CBDC?
Yeah. CBDC, in the case of Brazil, is called DREX.
How do you spell that?
DREX.
DREX. DREX. Okay.
This is how they call it.
It kind of sounds evil.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds a little DREX.
Yeah. Like, they wanted to have something with an X because of PIX.
Okay. Yeah. No, sorry.
It's digital real something X.
So what's the difference there?
Yeah. So PIX is the instant payment system, like fiat. Programmable money, instant payment system on the fiat part.
Within a banking system. And the CBDC, in the case of Brazil specifically, is a tokenization platform. Because, again, going back to what we were discussing about why will I need the BRL stablecoin, since we already have PIX, we are not trying to use blockchain to solve payments locally. So the CBDC project from the central bank set it out as let's tokenize the economy, like tokenize receivables, the capital markets, financial and non-financial instruments. So the real estate, for example, industry, like let's tokenize the asset itself, let's tokenize the bonds, let's tokenize everything. So this is a difference. So PIX, fiat payment system, CBDC, blockchain-based tokenization platform for the financial ecosystem. Yeah, it seems like this is in some ways limited to like settlement, like people sending and receiving value just from let's settle up here.
Exactly.
This DREX is what you're talking about here is more of like, let's tokenize the economy, which is a huge, so it seems like the aperture of what that implies would be way, way bigger. And you're saying the Brazilian government would be, are they directly involved behind DREX? Like they're the ones similarly who their team or it's a government backed thing.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Yeah, is that their own project, and they have a palette that companies could apply to participate in the pilot. And it was split into, I think, 3 phases. The first phase was just let's test the technology, do like test transactions, but nothing, design yet. Just let's see if it works. If I send something to you. And the second phase was, okay, now let's apply this infrastructure to use cases. So we saw companies applying for, FX use cases, vehicles use cases, like to tokenize the whole journey of a people buying a car, for example. Let's tokenize the car, let's tokenize the contract, let's tokenize the money.
And this sort of goes back to the roots that you were mentioning, like Lumx's early days, like building that. So in some ways, like DREX as a government project and what they would need hypothetically to do this tokenization of everything was similar to how you maybe in the early days were thinking about Lumx in some ways.
Exactly. We were heavily inspired by this agenda, by the way. Like, to not say we kind of created the product thinking about this future.
Interesting.
But in the middle of the process, we was like, I don't know. It's not that good to build your own company following an agenda that can change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This literally changed last month. I'll go back to this.
Yes. Yeah. I want to know what that means.
Yes.
Okay.
2, the tokenization agenda was not necessarily happening as fast as the market thought it was.
Okay.
So when it comes to traction, clients, business, not that fast. And 3, stablecoins are a very much more near-term solution. What I'm trying to say is the tokenization thing is good, but it would take like 5 years for us to really see the value, the benefits, and people really, looking for this type of solutions,
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about stablecoins, you're thinking, okay, I can move money faster and cheaper. Oh, I can have access to dollars. I can have access to digital dollar yields. Let's do it now. So these were some of the reasons that made us pivot into what we are doing today. But going back to what we were discussing earlier, I didn't forget, like the CBDC agenda was, a sensitive topic for a while because, again, the central bank has been pushing this agenda for 3-4 years already. All the big banks was betting their investments and teams on the whole DREX pilot. So we have banks in Brazil that have like 80 people in the digital assets team, like crazy. And what happened was literally last month, I'm trying to say, actually, no, this month, August. It started August.
Couple of weeks ago,
yeah. On Blockchain Rio in Brazil, there was a keynote from the central bank president, right? And one of the main things that he mentioned was like, okay, maybe we won't use blockchain for the CBDC.
They won't.
So everyone was like, what? Like, you guys have been spending 4 years talking about how we will tokenize the economy. Like, everyone was betting all of their, the investments on this process.
Yeah.
And now you guys just move exactly what they did.
And maybe that's the, that would be the critique of that system because when you give centralized control to someone like that, things can change very quickly.
Yeah, because the president of the central bank changed between last year to this year.
There we go.
So
I want to drive it back to Lumx as we kind of close here.
Okay.
This has been really insightful. Yeah. Hopefully people watching are learning a lot about all of the nuances that really matter here because there's so many of them. And it's important from like country to country, region to region that those nuances are taken into account. So with Lumx, pivoting it here, you have been in this part of the world and you've, as an entrepreneur building this business, really been trying to position essentially what's most needed. Like, how can we build a business that's most needed for the economy here, that's using blockchains as rails and modern money possible with blockchains as rails? Give us maybe even if that, I don't know if that news affects you guys or how you're thinking about it, but more broadly, like, how have you continued to be nimble as you try to build a business focused on Brazil and LATAM more generally? And I know as we were walking in here, you were like, the spirit was like, we got to go bigger. We got to think bigger here. Like, this isn't just like a Brazil thing. Maybe I know I'm throwing a lot at you. Just speak a little bit to all that.
Yeah, I think in our case, like Brazil itself is a huge market, like crazy. So for a Brazilian-based company, it's very strategic to grow through Brazil, right? So I don't know, like land and expand. Like, so we are now very focused on serving Brazilian businesses, not necessarily Brazilian businesses, but, any business that want to do some kind of money moving from or to Brazil. And of course, this correlates to the main corridors that we want to serve. So specifically now, because the timing couldn't be better, specifically after the Genius Act in the US, the Brazilian government is now accelerating the regulation. So we expect to have something like by the end of October, start running in January.
What do you expect to have live? Like some sort of payment-focused stablecoin legislation similar to Genius, or what?
By February, we had 3, they call like public consultations, right? So essentially, the central bank put out some materials, some papers about their thoughts about the industry and some drafts of the regulation. And based on the draft, we as participants of the ecosystem had the opportunity to submit our proposals to the central bank with our feedback.
Okay.
So since then, they have been going back and forth, talking with the industry, changing what they did before and blah, blah, blah. So what we have at the end of October is 2 main things. The first thing is the VASP regulation, so Virtual Asset Service Provider regulation. So who is a VASP? What are the categories that you need to fit in? Capital minimums, all those things. What you can or cannot do depending on the category of the license that you want to get.
Okay.
But most importantly, we will have the regulation for stablecoin-based FX, which is a separate thing.
Okay.
So it can be a VASP, but not be allowed to do stablecoin FX.
Separate.
It's a separate thing.
And will Lumx, is your plan to obviously be, we
need to have both. Yeah.
Okay. Where are you guys at in the process of that?
So we are very well prepared. So we work with top law firms in the ecosystem. We have a very high compliance bar. And this is one of the main things that we, make ourselves proud of what we have been doing, because we are not, bringing random volumes. We run the customer. We are doing business with real businesses, with regulated companies that have also higher compliance bars.
Yep.
So we're very well prepared. But we don't know. Like, we still need to wait for the final regulation to see if everything that we have been planning with our law firms has been well aligned with what the central bank wants. But if
you're hopeful, it seems like.
Yeah, we're very hopeful, and we'll most likely be one of the first regulated VASP in Brazil. So I'm very, very excited about it.
Incredible.
It's funny to say that I'm very anxious and excited to be regulated.
Well, it definitely makes it, when the rules are clear, you know how to operate confidently. Yeah. When the rules aren't clear, you've had to, and you guys have done a good job, but like you've had to continue to like be convicted, but also open-handed at the same time.
Yeah.
So anyway, this has been a really awesome, I've learned a lot in this conversation. Hopefully those who are listening have learned as well. Give us maybe a final thought around what you're excited for in the next few days here at the conference. Like, maybe some conversations or things that for you're trying to learn more about that are kind of, areas of the industry that seem really exciting or emerging, that whether it has to do with Lumx or not, just stuff that, gets you pumped up.
Yeah, I think like overall is exciting times. Couldn't be better timing for us to be part of the ecosystem. Business is doing great. I think, of course, a lot of things to happen. We are also finishing we are actually closing a new round. So most likely have some news on that in the coming weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is a Series A for you guys?
Actually a seed.
Seed round. Okay.
Yeah. A seed, for Brazil will be mostly like a Series A because of the size. But, from the US will be like a good seed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
We have amazing investors coming in. So
how post seed, what does that kind of unlock for you guys? How are you planning to deploy that capital effectively? Like, what are you as a leader?
Yeah.
What are you telling your investors to convince them to give you money?
They use it for seeds. Yeah, man, like nothing too much. I think from our part and going back to the regulatory part, like most of this capital will be used for the regulatory part. Securing our licenses, for example, in Brazil, based on the draft, just to give one example. If we want to have the highest tier on the Brazilian license, we need to have a capital minimum of 4 million reais. So this is like,
what is that, $1,000?
Yeah.
Almost $1 million to just have a seat at the table and get a license approval.
Exactly.
Wow. It makes sense why the government is wanting regulations to be in place.
Of course. So most of this round is focused on the regulatory part. So building our licensing part. We have a lot of things going on in this aspect, not only Brazil, but other jurisdictions. So also expanding our entities and presence, local presence, for the regulatory part. And of course, DTM. We need to surf this wave, and we're well prepared to be one of the main players in the ecosystem.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Caio,
that's it.
thanks for the time. This was awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me.
There you go. Caio from Lumx.
See ya.
Ti ricordi quella sera che per gioco tu baciai? Sembrava solo un'avventura di palmare.